Hello, good people. How are you today? I hope everybody is fine. Please forgive me if I sound a little bit nasal. Nasal has to do with the nose. I just sneezed. It's very cold in Florida, so hopefully I'm not getting sick. But in today's lesson, we're going to be talking about much and many. Before we do that, however, I wanted to take a moment to thank you guys for subscribing, for commenting on the videos, for liking them. I started this channel in August and I already have 1,300 subscribers and I am so thankful. Thank you all. All right. After we talk about much versus many, we're going to talk about a lot of versus lots of. Let's begin. In French, you use the same expression to talk about something that you can count versus something you cannot count. What do I mean? Combien d'enfants as-tu would translate how many children do you have? But combien de temps avez-nous would translate how much time do we have? So the first one is many. The second one is much in English, but in French, you use the same expression. In Spanish, it's similar. You would say, ¿Cuántos hijos tienes? How many children do you have? And ¿cuánto tiempo tenemos? Would be how much time do we have? So same expression in Spanish, but in English, we have much and we have many. So what's the difference? Much is used when we're talking about uncountable nouns. Remember that nouns are the names of people, animals, places, things, and abstract ideas like love, respect, appreciation, adoration, etc. So much is used with uncountable nouns, things you cannot necessarily count. It would take you too much time to count them, or it would be impossible to count them. Take, for example, water. 70% of the earth is made up of water. We can't count water. It's limitless. It's vast. I also think about the hair on my head. If I were to take a moment to count each strand of hair, it would be like Mission Impossible. Only God knows how many strands of hair I have on my head. So hair is also considered uncountable, just as water and time would be considered uncountable. Many is used with countable nouns, things that we can count. For example, on my hand, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fingers. I can count them, countable nouns. So we cannot count time, but we can count seconds. For example, this recording has been going on for 3 minutes and 22 seconds. We can count seconds, we can count minutes, but we cannot count time. So again, much is used with uncountable nouns and many is used with countable nouns. They are mostly used in negative and interrogative constructions to indicate large quantities. And interrogative refers to asking questions. Examples: I don't have much time. Because I cannot count time, it's uncountable, I use much. Example number 2, how many children do you have? I can count children. So for example, if someone has 5 children, they can tell you their names: Mary, Jane, Tom, Jim, Sue. 5 children. So we say, how many children do you have? Because children is a countable noun. We continue with a lot of versus lots of. Now, these two can be used interchangeably. They are considered informal, so if you are in college or university and you're writing a paper, professors don't typically want to see you use these expressions in your writing. They are informal and they can be used with both countable and uncountable nouns. A lot of and lots of, however, are mainly used with affirmative sentences. So, for example, she works at the hospital. That is an affirmative sentence, whereas she doesn't work at the hospital is negative, and where does she work is interrogative. So, we mainly use a lot of and lots of with affirmative sentences. Examples: she has a lot of responsibilities, and we have a lot of time to relax. So even though responsibilities is countable and time is uncountable, we can use a lot of and lots of with both uncountable and countable nouns. So these two sentences are very much correct. The third example says they bought lots of candy for the kids. So a lot of and lots of are interchangeable, and they can be used with both countable and uncountable nouns. They're also mostly used in affirmative sentences. All right, so now it's time for some practice. I want you to pause this video, write your answers down, and then resume the video and check to see if you have the correct answers. Okay, so for number 1, we would say, how many parts of speech are there in English? And because you can count the parts of speech, nouns, verbs, pronouns, conjunctions, interjections, etc., then we would use many. Number 2, how much time do we have left? Remember that we cannot count time. We can count seconds and minutes, but not time in general. Number 3, Sarah has many responsibilities at her job. We can count her responsibilities. Number 1, she has to answer the phones. Number 2, she has to make appointments for her boss. Number 3, she has to schedule interviews for her boss. So we can count her responsibilities, and therefore we say Sarah has many responsibilities at her job. And number 4, how many bottles of soda did you drink? We can count bottles. We cannot count water in general, but we can count bottles of water. So we could say, how many bottles of water did you consume today? Or how many bottles of soda did you drink? We now continue with 4 commonly used idioms and their meanings. Idioms are groups of words that when you look at them in context, sometimes they will not make sense. They're not to be interpreted literally. These are phrases that have a specific meaning within a particular context. So for example, from scratch means from the beginning, from ground zero. So I can bake a cake from scratch, meaning I combine the flour with the butter, with the sugar, and all the ingredients, and I made the cake from ground zero. I made it from scratch. Number 2, to cost an arm and a leg. That expression means to be expensive. So if someone says, I bought a house last year and it cost me an arm and a leg, it just means the house was very expensive. Number 3, the ball is in your court. It means that you have to be the one to make the decision. The ball is in your court means it's your choice, your decision, and you alone. Number 4, to call it a day means to stop working on something. So I can be at the office with my employees, and because it's 11 p.m. at night, everybody is tired. I say to them, all right, let's just call it a day and we can continue tomorrow. Let's just stop working on the project for tonight, and tomorrow we can continue. So from scratch, from the beginning, from nothing, from ground zero, to cost an arm and a leg, to be expensive. The ball is in your court. It's your decision to make. And to call it a day means to stop working on something at the moment. All right. So I hope this video was useful for you guys. Don't forget to subscribe, leave me a comment, like this video, as those things help us YouTubers who are trying to build. Thank you guys for your support, and until the next lesson.